11 little rose bushes. That is what I counted on my back porch table this spring, lined up in clay pots, and every single one of them started life as a bare green stick wrapped in plain toilet paper from my hall closet. I did not use a greenhouse. I did not buy rooting powder. I did not spend one single dollar. Last June, I clipped 12 cuttings off the old red rose by my mailbox, wrapped them up the way I am going to show you today, and set the whole bundle in a dark kitchen cupboard. 3 weeks later, 11 of those 12 sticks had little white roots showing, and today they are blooming their heads off in terracotta pots on my porch. Now, a rose bush at the garden center runs $15 or $20 these days, and here I made 11 of them out of a roll of paper and a plastic bag. Stay with me to the end, honey, because whether a cutting roots or rots comes down to one specific thing light does to a bare stem, and nobody ever explains it. Once you hear it, this whole method will make perfect sense. I'm Debra Wilson. I've been growing flowers for more than 50 years, ever since I was a little girl at my Grandma Hazel's elbow, and these days my yard is the most colorful one on the block. And this little method is about as Grandma Hazel as anything I know, because in her day you did not go buy a rose bush. You grew one from a cutting off a neighbor's fence, wrapped in whatever paper the house had. Now let me tell you why most folks give up on rose cuttings, because I hear it over the garden fence all the time. Somebody clips a nice stem, sticks it in a glass of water on the kitchen windowsill, and waits. And sure enough, sometimes little roots do appear. But water roots are soft, brittle little things. The day you move that cutting into soil, most of them break or drown, and the poor stem wilts inside a week. Other folks skip the glass and push the cutting straight down into a pot of soil. That one fails a different way. A fresh cutting has an open wound on the bottom. Wet soil pressed against an open wound usually means rot before roots. The stem turns black from the bottom up, and that is the end of that. So here is the piece nobody tells you. A rose cutting has to heal before it can root. It needs to grow a little cap of white tissue over that cut, called a callus, the same way your skin heals over a scrape. And a healing stem wants two things at the very same time: steady moisture and plenty of air. Soil gives it moisture, but smothers the air. The water glass gives it water, but grows the wrong kind of roots. Plain toilet paper, of all things, gives it both at once, and it costs about a penny. Hold on to that question about the light, honey, because it is the whole reason the cupboard matters as much as the paper, and I promise we are getting there. Now, everything I'm doing today comes right out of a little book I wrote called Debra's 30-Day Bloom Protocol. The long name is the day-by-day system that forces stubborn plants to burst into flowers, and honest, it is just my grandmother's old pantry and shed methods, tidied up and written out plain, one gentle day at a time. It is 122 pages, and it walks you through a whole month. The first week you diagnose before you feed, with the simple soil test Grandma swore by, the sun audit that changes everything, and learning whether your plant blooms on old wood or new wood. The second week you make your corrections, feeding for flowers the honest way and making the right cut at the right time. The last 2 weeks you hold steady while the first buds appear, and there is a per plant bloom playbook, one simple page for each flower, roses included. It is $17 right now, marked down from $47, and honey, that is the price of one garden center rose bush for a whole yard full of blooms. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, honey, let's go cut some roses. a quick word on timing and choosing your rose before we cut. The best window for this is early summer through midsummer, right after a flush of blooms has finished. That is when the stems are firm but still green and they heal the fastest. Here is an easy test my Grandma Hazel taught me. Bend the stem gently, and if it snaps clean like a fresh green bean, it is ready. If it just bends over soft, it is too young, and if you cannot bend it at all, it has gone woody, and nearly any rose you love will do this for you. The old-fashioned shrub roses and climbers root the easiest of all, which is exactly why you still see them blooming beside farmhouses where nobody has lived in years. Cut from a rose in your own yard or from a neighbor who is happy to share, and honey, most gardeners are tickled to be asked. Step 1 is choosing your cuttings, and this is where half the battle is won. Come over here to the red rose by my mailbox with me. You want a stem from this year's growth, one that has already finished blooming. Look for a stem about as thick as a pencil. That is the sweet spot. Thinner stems dry out, and thick woody ones are slow to heal. Cut a piece 6 to 8 inches long. That is 6 to 8 inches, about the length of your hand and a little more. Make your bottom cut just below a leaf node. A node is that little bump on the stem where a leaf grows out, and it is where the roots will come from. Now snip off any old flower or hip at the top, then pull off every single leaf. I know that feels wrong, honey, but for this method, the stem rests in the dark and leaves in a dark bag only mold. Take your time out there and cut more than you need. I cut 12 to get my 11, and I have had batches do worse. If you want 6 bushes, cut 10. There is no rush, and the rose will not miss them. So now you have a little handful of bare green sticks. Step 2 is the wrap, and this is the part that costs a penny. Roll off a strip of plain toilet paper, about 6 squares, and lay it flat on the kitchen counter. 2-ply is what I use, and the cheap stuff works just as well as the fancy. Sprinkle it with water until it is damp all the way through. Damp, honey, not dripping. If you pick it up and water runs off, it is too wet, so pour that off and press it gently with a dry sheet. You want it like a wrung-out washcloth. Now lay 3 or 4 cuttings on the paper with their bottom ends toward you. Roll them up so the paper covers the bottom half of the stems, snug like a little quilt. The tops can stick out bare. That damp paper is going to sit right against those bottom nodes and hold steady, even moisture on them for weeks, while still letting air through. There is not one product at the garden center that does that job better, and I have tried a few in 50 years. Step 3, the bundle goes to bed. Set your little paper rolls inside a plastic bag. A bread bag or a grocery sack is perfect. Fold the top of the bag over loosely. Do not tie it shut, and do not zip it airtight, because remember, a healing stem needs air as much as it needs moisture. Now carry that bag to a dark cupboard or a closet shelf. You want it somewhere that stays roughly 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 65 to 70, ordinary room temperature, so a kitchen cupboard is just fine. Not the refrigerator, honey, that is too cold, and not the garage in July, that is too hot. And remember what I told you at the start about the light. The dark is not just to keep the paper from drying. The dark is doing real work on those stems, and in a few minutes I will tell you exactly what, because it is my favorite part of this whole method. Step 4 is the easiest step and the hardest one, because step 4 is leaving them alone. The bundle rests in that cupboard for about 3 weeks, that is 3 whole weeks. Around day 10, you may open the bag one time for a peek. Unroll one bundle gently. If any stem has turned black and soft at the bottom, take it out and throw it away so it cannot spoil the others. If the paper feels dry, sprinkle it lightly and roll it back up. Then close the cupboard and go on about your business. I know it is tempting to check every day. Please do not. Every unwrapping lets the moisture swing and bumps those tender healing edges. Trust the paper and trust the dark. They know their business. Now 3 weeks later comes Christmas morning. Bring the bag to the counter and unroll your bundles, slow and gentle. What you are hoping to see at the bottom of each stem is that little cap of white, bumpy tissue, the callus, and if you are lucky, little white roots poking out anywhere from a nub to a 1/4 inch. 11 of my 12 had them. Any stem that is still green and firm but has no callus yet can go right back in fresh damp paper for another week or 10 days. There is no rush at all. Step 5 is potting them up. Fill a small pot with light potting mix and make a hole with your finger or a pencil. Set the cutting in so the bottom 2 nodes are buried and firm the soil around it soft as tucking in a child because those baby roots snap like thread. Water it in gently. Then set the pot somewhere bright but out of direct sun for the first 2 weeks. Bright shade, honey, like under a porch roof. After 2 weeks, give them morning sun. By the end of the first month, you will see new leaves, and that is your rose telling you thank you. One more thing about that first year, because this is where a little patience pays you back double. Keep your baby roses in their pots for the whole first summer. Water them when the top inch of soil feels dry. That is the top 1 inch, about up to your first knuckle. Do not feed them anything for the first 6 weeks because young roots burn easy, and after that a half-strength feeding once a month is plenty. Come October, plant them out in the yard where they will live and tuck 3 inches of mulch around them like a blanket for winter. By their 2nd June, they will be blooming right alongside their mother plant, and you will stand there with your coffee grinning like I do every single year. And that brings us to the part I promised you at the very start. Why does the dark cupboard beat the sunny windowsill? Here is the piece nobody ever explains. A rose stem makes its own rooting medicine. It is a natural hormone the plant produces up in its growing tips, and it travels down the stem and gathers at a cut, telling the plant to grow roots right there. But that hormone has one weakness. Light breaks it down. Set a bare cutting in a bright window, and the light along the stem is destroying the very medicine the plant is sending to heal itself. Worse than that, light tells the stem it is growing season. So the cutting spends its little savings, pushing out leaf buds, pretty green leaves it has no roots to feed. It is like a young fellow spending his paycheck before he has earned it. In the dark, everything flips. The hormone stays put and piles up right at that cut. The stem stops trying to make leaves, and every bit of strength the cutting has goes down into the callus and the roots. That is why the cupboard matters as much as the paper. The paper holds the moisture and the air. The dark holds the medicine where it belongs. The old-timers wrapped their cuttings in damp paper and set them in the cellar without ever knowing the word hormone. They just knew it worked, and now you know why. And that little bit of working with the plant instead of against it is exactly how my whole book works, one gentle day at a time, for every flower in your yard. Debra's 30-day bloom protocol is $17 right now, marked down from $47. And if it saves you buying even one rose bush next spring, it has already paid for itself with change left over. Honey, I wish somebody had handed it to me 50 years ago. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So remember it plain. Pencil thick cuttings, damp paper, a loose bag, a dark cupboard, and 3 weeks of leaving well enough alone. Did your mother or your grandmother have her own flower trick? Share it below, honey. Those little family ways are exactly the kind of thing worth keeping. I read every single one. Next time, I am going to show you the kitchen scrap I bury beside my peonies every fall. And the reason it grows stems strong enough to hold those big, heavy blooms without one single stake. Now go on out there and get your hands in the dirt, honey. I'll see you in the garden.